So welcome everyone to another Life at the Turn live Q&A. We're really excited to have Bob from SQAIRZ Golf. I gotta go, you do a lot more than golf now. So we're just gonna say Bob from SQAIRZ because you guys have some pretty incredible products arranging across the board. But to kick things off, I'd love to get you to introduce yourself, tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, Bob Winskowitz. I am the founder and CEO of SQAIRZ, and what I do could take us all day long because I do, I do bottle washing, you name it, windows. But no, I do I do a lot of different things. But one of the focuses I have is in the design and constantly trying to innovate and figure out new ways how to improve a golf shoe. So that's my number one task.
And tell us a little bit about SQAIRZ. I know most of us are familiar with SQAIRZ and what SQAIRZ makes, but tell us a little bit about SQAIRZ and the history into getting into this unique category.
Yeah, we started this about 8 years ago, and my background was golf. I worked for McGregor Golf, and then I was the senior vice president of sales and marketing for Arnold Palmer, and I ran Arnold's golf company for about 3.5 years. And so I came out of the golf industry, and one of the things that I was a student of ground force production, and I was always enamored at how much credit golfers were giving the golf ball and giving the golf club, and no, not too many people were even looking at the shoe and asking the question, how much does the shoe play in the role of the golf swing? And I could tell you, after all these years of studying, there's nothing more important than your golf shoe. And I know we'll get into that in a minute. But so I basically approached the golf shoe by a single premise, which was, if I can improve your balance, your stability, and your ground connection, you will hit the ball farther and straighter. And so we did a lot of research, and one of the things that all the research came back is that, your foot operates like a three-legged stool: your big toe, your little toe, and your heel. And if you angle your toes into the center and move your toes underneath each other, and that's what most every golf shoe does, you can't press down. And pressing down means that you are creating ground force, and then there's balance and stability. So all the research out there says open up the toe box, and that's precisely what we did. Is we designed a golf shoe that is less rounded, more squared off, and it's really the geometry of the toe box that allows the toes to sit naturally and splay as you put pressure on the ground. But the other thing we did is, this is not a wide shoe. It's all we did is open up the toe box from where the toes meet the foot. Width is established here, but on the under the ball of your foot, only on the outsole, and that's why I can hold the shoe like this, is right there. We added about 4 millimeters of width, so this will give you better balance and better stability. The last thing is the heel stabilizer. This plastic piece runs externally, down internally, and what it does is it prevents torsion. And so if you can hold the shoe by the heel and the toe and twist it, don't play golf in it. Throw it away. I don't care if you buy my shoe, but just don't play golf in that shoe. The other thing is lacing. So we designed a lacing technology that when you pull the laces tight, they stay there. We've got silicone nubs printed on the lace because you want to have that upper material come down nicely on the top of your foot comfortably. And then the last thing that I'll brag about is that we're the first ones to put in an anti-slip insole. And your foot wants to move inside of the shoe left, right, back, and forth. That's why you get foot fatigue. Is really your foot has now got a boundary and it keeps bouncing in the front, the back, the left, the right. So if I can take and I can provide an anti-slip with great cushioning and great responsiveness, think of that your foot now is sitting here. It's not going to move. And now you get our laces that bring down the upper on top of your foot. It makes the foot one with your shoe, and that eliminates inefficiencies. And if I can eliminate efficiencies, I can create efficiencies for the golfer. And really, that's the uniqueness of our design, which we have 11 patents on.
That's amazing. And low key, I love the laces. That's one of my biggest annoyances when I go to normal shoes and I'm tying them up and I don't don't have the it's just called lace lock system, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Really, really, it's such a small, simple thing that really works well. Over the period of time, your shoes have definitely evolved and they've changed. I think I have the original Velo and the Velo 2ST, I think. And even that jump, those are what, second and third generation about that. The improvements to me were huge. The weight was reduced, the breathability was really improved. But almost all of your shoes are waterproof too.
Yeah, you know, that's the important thing, Jamie, is you got to listen. You can't take it personally. You got to listen to the consumer. And, you know, I always say in footwear making, where there's smoke, there's fire. And so, you know, when you start hearing about the weight of the shoe and you start talking about or hearing about breathability, or traction, or, you know, waterproof, you got to listen to the consumer. And the fun part of being a relatively small company is that, you know, we can ride the bike and fix it at the same time, where, you know, these larger companies, it's like trying to, you know, turn a aircraft carrier around. It's a very difficult thing. And that's what we did. We went from a shoe that was about 590 grams, which was one of the heaviest, not the heaviest, one of the heaviest, down to probably one of the lightest, which is, in a performance shoe with spikes, it's about 424 grams. It's lighter than the G4. It's lighter than the Premier. It's lighter than the Adidas 360, any painter, you know, spike shoe. So it's something we've worked on. But the challenge is that weight and structure oppose each other. So the more structure you want to put into a shoe, you got to start adding weight. So you've got to be very, very careful about that. And that's where material science comes in. And there are materials that have less density and less weight. So you've got to be very careful. And in terms of the, you know, the waterproofing and breathability, again, those two things really oppose each other. But microfiber is a very special material that allows moisture and heat and perspiration to, you know, to come out of the shoe, to be released out of the shoe, but it doesn't let any water in. And, you know, we're one of the few companies that actually take and sew a gusset all the way from the bottom eyelet all the way up to the top. So this shoe is waterproof all the way up to here. A lot of the water usually gets in through the tongue. And so we sew it all the way up. So this is 100% waterproof. The only way you're going to get water is you submerge your foot.
Entirely. Yeah. And so now I'm going to give you some opportunity to brag a little bit. You've obviously done a lot of studies. You've worked with independent people as well, done your own studies on different use cases. When you say you're going to gain swing speed, you're not just saying it as a tagline. There's actual studies and there's data to back this up. We've talked about super speed and before, where he gained how many miles an hour when he just by switching shoes, nothing else, just switching shoes.
Well, he gained, I think it was about 3.5 miles an hour. He picked up about 16 yards in his distance. And you know, this is the gentleman that owns Super Speed. And we had Dr. Tyler Standiford, who was a professor of kinesiology. And again, a lot of these people like to, you know, I won't say challenge our, you know, what we have to say out there. It's just, it's fun, you know, that they sit there and they kind of tilt their head and say, just by changing my shoes, I can pick up that. Do you mind if we test them? And we sent it to him. In fact, that night that they tested, Mike Napoleon, who owns Super Speed, called me. And he said, Bob, you're not going to believe this. I picked up 16 yards of distance. And, you know, how the heck do the shoes do it? What do they do? Well, the same true story happened with Dr. Scott Lynn. And for those people who are listening, Dr. Scott Lynn is a professor of kinesiology and biomechanics at Cal State Fullerton. He's also on the medical advisory board at the University of Arkansas. And he is an expert in force plate technology. And he's also a member of Swing Catalyst Advisory Board. And we sent him the shoes, and he had almost the same results. He picked up about 2.8 miles an hour in his swing speed and about 8 miles an hour in ball speed in about 15 yards of distance. And so as we speak, the University of Arkansas is doing a comprehensive study with the Arkansas golf team on our shoes to figure out exactly where, why, and how our shoes influence each aspect of the swing, because he's looking to nail this down as to, where specifically does our footwear design influence the shoe, influence the performance.
Yeah. And if I recall, like I really like the square toe box for putting. That's something that now when I'm doing a full swing, I usually angle my lead foot open a little bit. But for putting, it's something that I find very beneficial. But there's a rule that you're not allowed. There's a USGA RNA rule that you're not allowed an alignment aid on your footwear, correct?
Yeah, it really is one of the perplexing things on the rules of golf is you can put any alignment aid you want on a club or on a golf ball. Which, if you think about it, you've got like the railroad tracks, you've got the line that you want to establish, your target line, but then you get parallel left. If you're a right-handed golfer, that railroad track, and you can align out here, but you can't align back here. You can't put any alignment devices. And, to your point, I mean, we do have, it's a 70 millimeter radius on our toe box. So it's not square, but it's less rounded. So it gives you that visual. But even when you're setting up, most people, when they set up, the proper way really to set your stance up is to bring your trail foot in first, line that up, bring your front foot in. And then at that point, once your body's aligned, you can flare your feet. But it's that establishing your parallel left, and then a lot of people open up their lead foot just to get a little more hip turn.
Exactly. And I think you've done a lot of research into the biomechanics in order to make these shoes work, not just so you know a lot more than just saying, yeah, we make a cool golf shoe. You've actually done more research to try and into swing technology and that sort of stuff as well, correct?
Oh, yeah. We've got over 120 papers written. We've got medical clinical studies on the shoe. We're the only sports footwear company that's ever been accepted for what they call a poster presentation at the American Conference of Foot and Ankle Surgeons Convention. And that is like the PGA show for orthopedic surgeons and podiatrists. And, we presented 2 papers last year, which got accepted. We presented 2 this year, which got accepted. And that there were 200 papers out of 800 that were accepted. And really, they found the interest level and why we're accepted was how footwear design can have a direct influence on an athlete's performance. And so we've got a lot of clinical medical papers, white papers, and for those people listening, your foot, like I said, it really, you can hold your hand out and let your hand kind of wobble a little like this, and it flows freely. But if you squeeze your fingers together and try to do that, you'll feel the tension on your wrist. And that's the same with your foot. So if I can open up your foot, it flows all the way up your kinetic chain. It doesn't put any stress on your ankle. It doesn't put stress on your knee, and all the way up the chain. So if I can let your toes sit more naturally into a shoe, it provides you a lot of advantages.
Okay, now to get into some of the fun questions from our community. So, Coulter, Are squares comfortable enough to walk around in? He struggled to find a pair of spike shoes specifically that don't leave him feeling like he's hiked 100 miles in sandals.
Yeah, and that's a great question because throughout the years, the reason why the spikeless golf shoe, when Echo launched the Echo Street back in the 70s, was that people were fed up with the fact that the shoe was heavy and the spikes, you could feel the spikes while walking. And I think the consumer actually got to a point where said, well, it's impossible to have spikes and comfort all in the same thing. Well, that's not really true. We can solve for that. There's ways you can solve for that. But again, as I mentioned, when you start taking weight out of a shoe, you start taking structure, you start, taking materials out. So you start feeling those cleats on the bottom of your foot. And one of the things that we always look at is this material right here, which is a foam. It's what they call an EVA foam, and the outsole. And so these cleats here, directly under that, as you go up into the shoe, there's enough padding up in here and all the way up. And then underneath, on top of actually the midsole, is what we call a footboard. And you can add a little more protection on the footboard, and then you have the insole. So I can tell you that with a properly structured design, you can have comfort and walking comfort. We've got 8 tour players with 1 on tour, and those guys walk for a living. You won't get, you won't get these tour players. So the other thing is, when people's feet hurt in golf, the number one reason why you take everybody, the first thing you do when you get done is take your shoe off. A lot of guys will have a beer first and then take the shoe off. But it's take. And the reason is that you're not going to have foot fatigue if you're just walking around your barefoot or sandals. And the reason is your foot's not confined. If your foot's confined and you're moving and you're trying to create pressure with the ground, your foot's going to move around. And if I can eliminate that from moving around, you're going to have more comfort. And a lot of people think that the lighter the shoe, the more comfort you're going to have. That's not true, because if that shoe is flexible and you're in a side hill, downhill lie, your foot is literally moving in that shoe. You don't maybe not feel it, but that's why at the end of the round, your foot is tired.
For sure. And I know from my experience with squares, when I'm walking around on them, I've walked 18, 27 holes. There is a different feel to walking in a squares shoe, and I find difficulty in words to really put it, because there's this level of stability, and you feel it, especially when you're walking on pavement or you're walking for the parking lot or anything like that. You can feel the stability within the shoe. It doesn't, that resisting of twisting like you're talking, whereas others feel a little bit more like a running shoe, and it's almost like molding a little bit more to the ground. But once you get into onto the grass, that's where it really starts to shine. So
it does. And you know what? That's the first thing that I tell everybody. I tell right out of the box, the number one thing you're going to feel is stability. And the best part of feeling stability is that confidence to go after it. Everybody, look, we all like to hit the long ball, and I think we'd all give up some yards to be straight and narrow, but when you need to go after it, that's the confidence these shoes provide you. It gives you that, and that's the one thing that checks off in your head, is that, hey, I feel locked and loaded.
Exactly. Okay, Patrick, with SQAIRZ going spikeless now as well, what were the challenges in maintaining traction and stability without spikes?
That's a great question. I went screaming and kicking all the way to the design table, and I didn't want to do it. I'm a purist. I can tell everybody here, it is a fact that the difference between a spike shoe and a spikeless shoe is roughly 8 yards of distance. That traction, 82% of all tour players wear a removable cleat. That should tell you why spikeless isn't dominant on the PGA Tour. But it's 63% of all footwear sales is a spikeless shoe. So, the marketplace, and in ladies, it's 80%. So, but the marketplace is telling you that's what they want. I wanted to do it. So, we got as close as we can to close that gap on 8 yards. And in fact, I have the spikeless shoe here. And we did a lot of research early on. This design is really nothing different here than on our spike shoe, other than the removable cleats. And this is a rotational pattern. And this was designed specifically to facilitate the golf swing. So when we started testing this, you can change the durometer of the rubber to be a little more tacky, particularly on different surfaces, wet surfaces and things like that. So that's not too much of a challenge. But the varying heights of the cleats and things of that nature, I did this because the marketplace is saying it and saying I want it. And a lot of guys here, if we just want to, go out and play around is one thing. I'd say wear a spike shoe. It makes a big difference. But if you're going to go to the mat and hit some balls, or you're going to be indoor training and a simulator, you don't want a spike shoe. You're going to break your ankle, So, with the progression of indoor golf and all of that, that was really my biggest checkpoint that says I got to do it. But yeah, it's a great product. I always wear a spike shoe when I'm on the course. But if I'm just going to go hit balls, I wear a spikeless shoe.
That's a really good lead into, tell us a little bit about the new 2026 line, because you have some new introductions, including colorways and various options.
Yeah, I would say that over the last 7 years, we've done a good job, but not a great job at styling. I was always like I said, a purist, and I took the lead from, not that I'm putting myself in the same category, but I took the lead from Ely Callaway and Karsten Solheim. For those people on here that are old enough to remember when the Big Bertha launched, Karsten Solheim and Ely Callaway, when they designed the Ping irons and the Big Bertha metal woods, they were after one thing. They were after perimeter weighting. And when they got done, and Callaway, when they got done designing, Ely Callaway got done, that was an oversized snow shovel with no hosel. All right.
Okay.
And we all remember the sound of it. But he didn't give a, about the look, because that's the way innovation looked. That's the way perimeter weighting looked. And the same thing with the Ping irons. It looked like, somebody who was high designed that iron. It was so funky at the time. And, 2-ball putter, the bubble shaft, I could go on and on and on. But innovation always takes on a new look. All right. So innovation has to look different. So, we spent a lot of time this year really worried about the look. So, we've got some new materials. This is a ripstop material. As you can see, there's differences in materials, highly breathable, some accenting. So it's got some cool accenting. This is one of our Speed 3, again, highly breathable, but we tie in some fashion on the lace. This is what they call an aglet. And then up here, so this is
that's low key my favorite.
This one here is a very classy, upscale looking, again, with the little accents there. So we've got some really cool new stuff coming out.
Oh, wow. Looks great.
So we really did spend a lot of time on the design, because look, at the end of the day, eye candy makes a difference. People want to be fashionable. They want to look good. But again, we're all out there trying to enjoy the game more. And the way we enjoy it is to play a little better. And I can tell you for sure, there's not a better golf shoe out there.
They're also very easy to clean. Uh, sorry, the outside is very easy to clean. The soles, on the other hand, because they're so grippy, I'm very fortunate where in Switzerland we have like these cleaning stations at the end of our, I'm guessing private clubs have them, but they're basically these massive wash stations. And so you finish your round, you go in and you can, because we all walk, there's like these little rumble strip ponds that you can run your cart through, and then there's air compressors, and those air compressors save me so much time because I can take it and I just hammer it through because I get all the, you know how much grip you're getting because you can see all the grass around the spikes. That is definitely
You
tore
bring
up a
up
few.
you bring up something that's very challenging. You know, when you design traction pattern, it's kind of the last thing you think about, not think about, you worry about is that, the grass is going to build up in there. And, there's certain things you can do in the mold process with putting silicone and not making it as grippy. And I have just, it's one thing that I didn't want to tinker with, but it's an issue with most golf shoes, but, we do with all of our mesh upper shoes, everything, the materials we buy are coated with a Scotchgard-like product for easy cleaning on a mesh. And, all the current materials and synthetic uppers and microfibers have very good cleaning ability.
And we opened up the floodgates a little bit for community questions. So Patrick has another one. Basically, how light is there too light of a golf shoe, and what does that look like for too light of a golf shoe?
That's a good question, and I don't know that I can give a good answer. It really, I tell people, when you look for a golf shoe, you've got to do one test. And that's, if you can hold the shoe by the heel and the toe and twist it, don't play golf in it. Do not play golf in it. And 99.9% of the time, that shoe is a lightweight sneaker-like shoe that may be 280 and 290 grams or whatever. But I would tell you, don't play in that. A golf course is not built on a flat surface, and any kind of angle, that material is going to give, and that sole is going to give, and that affects the angle in which you're striking a golf ball. I tell people that when you go practice, do not go practice in sneakers. Do not take, I would take your golf shoe, and if you can't get a spikeless shoe in the same model that you wear, because if you're wearing like a Hoka, which has a very thick midsole, and you go practice to hit balls, you could be striking that ball at a different point, at a different angle, So, and that's very important. Most people don't think like that. They go and spend 2-3 hours out in the range in their sneakers, and they put their golf shoes on, which are different heights, and now you just practice hitting the ball in a different spot. So, to get back to the question, it said, I don't know the answer to that. All I can tell you is that it is a very difficult thing to deploy structure into a shoe without making it heavy. And I think, this is probably the lightest shoe that we have, which is a spikeless, but you can't, as you see here, you can't twist this because of this piece here. It runs externally and then internally down on the layers. But I apologize, I can't answer that. It's just
no, I think you answered it. So Derek, what are the elements of the golf shoe that must be different to make a golf shoe waterproof? And what concerns are there when making a waterproof shoe as for comfort as a regular golf shoe?
So, we buy materials that are like a microfiber that are waterproof, inherently waterproof. There's some layers that you can put underneath on top of what they call the booty. You can put, differing layers there to be waterproof at different stages of the upper. The one thing that in waterproof, it's the challenge with waterproof is usually breathability. There's materials that do have, let the moisture, the heat release like a microfiber. But a leather, it's very difficult to release that moisture and heat. But the challenge is always the type of materials you choose and try to make it as breathable as possible. Those are really the barriers to doing a completely waterproof shoe.
Well, and your feet provide a lot of heat, like at least mine do. It's something that is, I don't envy you or anyone on your team having to try and entirely resolve that issue. Jason, what have you found have been deemed the most comfortable options for 100% walking on the course in various conditions? So what's the most 100%, what do you think is the best, most comfortable golf shoe to walk in?
I will tell you that if you're looking at different brands out there, I can tell you that I have spent the last 8 years analyzing, ripping shoes apart. Pretty much every shoe that is marketed out there. And there's evidence of comfort all throughout the shoe. As you start up, you've got the midsole. And here's an example of something. So the way the shoe is made, this is the outer portion, the outsole, then you have a midsole, and then our heel stabilizer sits right on top of this and comes down here. And then as you build up underneath there's what they call a footboard. And the type of material you use on that footboard is very important. You can use an EVA, you can use polyurethanes, you can use different materials. And selecting that material, unfortunately, I would tell you, when footwear making, people kill for 5 cents. So usually they cheap on that material, and we don't. So that footboard has to do with comfort. And then, you have the midsole. And so I can tell you with no hesitation, there's not a more comfortable shoe in the market than ours. And just to give you a reference point, if you're going to wear your dress shoe versus a sandal, you would say your sandal would be most comfortable. Well, that's because your toes are sitting more like this, and you've got some freedom for your toes. So that freedom for the toes display as you put pressure. And think about this, when you're pressing down on the ground, and that's actually what you're doing. And if you think of somebody like let me kind of take a detour. If you look at somebody like Rory McIlroy, and when Rory gets a swing back, and as he's coming down, it looks like he's sitting down. What he's doing is he's forcing that pressure into the ground. And then right before he hits the ball, or as he's hitting the ball, it looks like he's up on his toes. And the reason for that is because he created more pressure than his body weight. And so it's lifting him up off the ground. It's like if you want to jump on a trampoline and go higher, what do? You press down harder. And that gives you that fuel, that energy. And that's what fuels the swing. But the problem with us amateurs is, generally speaking, we can create a lot of pressure, but it's how much you use at the point of contact. And the difference is weight distribution. So where's the weight on your feet during the swing and right before you hit the ball? Because if you want to create X amount of newtons here and you look at how much you use, there's a huge difference a lot of times. Yeah. And that's the inefficiency is weight distribution. Now I'm going to ask everybody here, if I was to tell you that your ability to create hip rotation is a function of weight distribution on your feet, you'd probably laugh at me or tell me I'm crazy. So if you have on your feet, if I was to tell you to stand up, if you're a right-handed golfer, put all the weight you possibly can on your trail toes, if you lean forward and put all the weight you can on your toes, on your big toe, and then try to turn your right hip back, you can't do it. I mean, you may be able to do a little, but then you put all the weight you possibly can in the inside of your trail heel, which is where it should be when you take it back, when you're loading, and you should be able to turn your hip beautifully. So weight distribution has a direct influence on hip rotation. So again, when I said this before, I'm sure there's people that chuckle when I said the most important piece of equipment is your footwear. I could argue that is all day long, that is the case. And if you have a good pair of shoes, we're not really giving you anything you don't have. It's all we're doing is we're eliminating all those inefficiencies.
There you go. And I would, granted, like I only have a spiked version, but I can only imagine how comfortable the spikeless versions are for walking and comfort. And I think comfort also comes in different ways for some people. I know we've talked about before, but in terms of balance, when you feel more stable, you can feel more comfortable. And that can be found within the SQAIRZ Golf shoe. Richard, are all shoes designed for generic use and location, or do you ever design a shoe specific for certain uses? Example, golf in Arizona versus Florida.
No, it's more of a generic, but I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag. But your question is very, very interesting, and it's I can't. It's killing me not to let the cat out. But they're not for no. You can make a generic shoe for different turfs. I mean, it should satisfy all different turf types if you're wearing a removable cleat. I don't think I would go so far as to say the grass types, the degree of moisture. Of course, the degree of moisture, I would say definitely wear a spike shoe. But no, I wouldn't design a shoe for different areas of the world. But I may design one shoe differently than the other.
There you go. We'll have to leave that teaser for another time. Derek's an interesting one. I don't think I ever saw this happen. So is there any consideration for protection of the sole of the foot following the bizarre 2023 injury of Greg Solhog, who stepped on a broken tee on a tee box and it pierced through his foot? Then he had to withdraw from the NC. I don't actually think I don't think I saw that or knew about that. But I guess the tee went right through his shoe.
The outsole, you can do different types of outsole, and this happens to be what they call a thermoplastic urethane, a TPU, versus a rubber. There's no way that a tee can get through here. You couldn't. I mean, you'd have to drill a hole. I mean, so he had to have some kind of lightweight, maybe sneaker, but it had to be a rubber outsole that,
Right.
yeah, but I'll be honest with you, I didn't know that. That never would cross my mind about designing for something like that. But with the
You might
TPU,
have a new testing process to go through now.
no, not another one.
Okay, Richard, how do you measure the life of golf shoes? Miles, like in running shoes, or time worn? And what is the expected life of if properly taken care of? That is a very key caveat.
It's a great question because it really all depends on like rounds played. I would say that you should get at least 2, mostly 3 seasons out of your play if you're playing 50 rounds a year.
Okay.
And that in between it, hitting balls and whatever, but a good constructed shoe, we give a 1-year warranty. In fact, I think we're one of the only companies out there that allow you to buy our shoes and wear them for 30 days. And if you don't like them for whatever reason, you can send them back and we don't ask any questions and we give you money back. And we don't charge you a restocking fee. So, I would say 2 to 3 years, golf years, round seasons. But we test, we do wear tests, we do abrasion test on the outsole, the midsole, the upper, all of that stuff. We do abrasion testing, and we do delamination testing. We try to pull the shoe apart. We heat it up. We put water on it. There's a whole litany of tests that you do in footwear making to make sure, because in footwear making, the last thing you want to do is have a return, or have a defect. So you have to send somebody a new pair of shoes and so on and so forth. But we estimate 2 to 3 years.
And it's like you've shown off a lot of the men's kit. You have shoes for women as well?
Yeah, I'm really excited about the line this year. This is one of the ladies, and the ladies market it's a very challenging market to market to. But the one thing that I have learned in the last 3 years is that women want to be able to leave their home, wear their golf shoe to the course. They want to look cute in it. They want to go out and play in it. Then go have lunch with the ladies, and then go do their errands afterwards and not change their shoes. And so what we did this year is we really did what we call a lifestyle look. And this is a spikeless. It's got the gum rubber outsole, but this is a suede. It's got a ripstop material here, a suede in the back. We also do classic, the ladies classic, which is a very, a very clean, classy, classic looking shoe. We do this in spiked as well. So it's something where I made a big effort this year in the ladies model to, they say ladies is about 23% of the business. And so we made a big effort in designing really more around this lifestyle look. So I'm really excited for the ladies shoe.
It's really interesting, all the little pieces that get put together to make these golf shoes what they are. We can take a slight detour again. But you're not just golf shoes. You've made some pretty big strides in other sports and other areas recently.
We launched a baseball shoe a year ago, and we really put the same features and benefits into the shoe as we did our golf shoe. And we've got the metal, the molded, the turf in this, with the official shoe of Major League Baseball Players Association. This year we'll have probably close to 80 Major League Baseball players wearing the shoes. We've got some really powerful players out there that you would all recognize. I could get on a list, but we also have designed a pickleball shoe, and we're in pickleball as well. I got so many shoes hanging out.
I was just gonna ask you, how many shoes do you have on your desk right now?
You know what the interesting thing is? I sit here all day long, and I'm on a computer or I'm on the phone, but I look at shoes like 10, 12 hours a day. And, which, it would drive most people crazy, but I sit there and I come up with these harebrained ideas about, how we can improve the shoe. And, no, I'll never do a football shoe. Never. It's funny. I just saw the comment about baseball. One of the things in baseball we saw that was quite interesting is that on average, in the major league level, we saw on average people picking up 4 miles an hour and what they call exit velocity. And exit velocity is how fast the ball comes off the bat. And we had pitchers like Fernando Cruz, Paul Blackburn, Chase Lee, Garrett Cole, that people that, have well established in baseball, picking up 2 miles an hour in their fastball by just changing their shoes.
That's
And
huge.
we had players that were sitting at 94 miles an hour in Major League Baseball. If you can get 95 or over, you're a commodity. And we had Manny Rodriguez for Tampa picked up 3 miles an hour in his fastball, took him from 94 to 97. We got a kid out there who's throwing 104 miles an hour right now.
My arm hurts thinking about that.
I was joking with somebody today. I'd say I just walk up to the umpire and say, "Call me out." I don't want to. I don't want to get up there and have to see that. I couldn't. But yeah, baseball and pickleball. The pickleball shoe. Everybody's getting hurt in pickleball, and the reason is they're wearing the wrong footwear mostly, and balance and stability is paramount in that sport as well. So any land-based sport, in order to perform at a high level, you need to use the ground. And if you're not balanced and stable when you're making that motion, you're setting yourself up for injury and, not so good performance.
And before anyone asks, yes, Bob and I have talked about curling shoes before.
I learned a lot. I didn't know there was that much to it,
And going back up, Patrick also really likes the green that you showed for the women, so he wouldn't mind seeing that in a men's shoe one day.
You're not the only one, Patrick, that said that. I've had 4 or 5 people say that they really like that colorway. So you may be seeing that down the road.
And in terms of sizing, we always get questions about sizing for shoes. Yeah. Are they kind of true to size? What would kind of denote a wide foot versus a standard? Can you run through that, a little bit of that with us?
Yeah. So, the standard is a D width, and then, that's just what's been established over the years. And then obviously E, and then you've got 2E, 3E, 4, whatever. But yeah, the width is the width and the length of the shoe is very important. And what I mean by that is, like, if you wear a Nike or an Adidas, it's got a very narrow toe box. And let's just say you're a size 11 in Nike or Adidas, you'll be a size 10.5 in SQAIRZ and a 10.5 in FootJoy. And the reason is you're trying to buy more room in the toe box because they got a narrow toe box. If you buy a wide shoe, just trying to buy more comfort in the toe area, you just created whack-a-mole. You just created another problem. Your foot is going to be moving in that shoe quite a bit, and it's not the right thing to do. You've got to be able to try to make the foot one with the shoe. You certainly don't want your toe touching the end of the shoe, but rubbing against the end of it, but you want to get as close as you can. So fitting, obviously when you try a shoe on, the first thing you should check for, obviously, is the width and then the length, and make sure your toe is as close to the front of the shoe as you can get it without touching, because it does make a huge difference. And I'll bet everybody on this call, if you're a size 11, I'll bet in your closet you have a size 10.5, you have an 11.5. It's because, footwear making, it's all over the map. It's not, from one manufacturer to another, it varies. There is some commonality, consistency out there probably for the majority, but there's probably about 40% of the market that,
well, and model to model across some companies can be vastly different.
Yep.
Which is always an annoyance. But the new 2026 colorways look great. I think it's been a really cool step in the right direction. I know a progress moving forward, I should say. I know Matt and Hayes, they are both working today, so they couldn't hop on, but they did a lot of coverage on the PGA show and just floored. That, I think that's the best way to put it. They were really blown away by them. Where we've got to thank you as well for putting up some shoes for Community Lab. We're really excited. We're going to go through and get our testers for that very shortly here. In terms of where you're looking, if these guys, anyone else watching this, are looking to buy SQAIRZ shoes, where's the best place to do it? Is it the site? Are they
Yep.
available in stores? Let us know
Yep.
where you can
So
look
they're online on SQAIRZ. That's SQAIRZ, no U in there. SQAIRZ.com. You can buy them there. And even though you buy them online, and a lot of people want to try before they buy, is that it's very consistent sizing. If you're, like I said, wearing a FootJoy and you're size 10, you'd be a size 10 in us. And we have exchanges, returns, free exchanges, returns. So you don't have to worry about paying. And, you place an order before noon, we ship it out the same day. So it's a very quick turnaround time. You can also buy them in Worldwide Golf. We're in Worldwide Golf stores around the country. And we're working our way. We were a predominantly D2C company, direct-to-consumer company, and we wanted to be that way for the longest time. But we made a decision about 2 years ago to start making a move into retail. So I think you'll see us in a lot of places next year. But go to the website, squairs.com, and we got baseball, pickleball, and golf. And like I said, we're a very consumer-friendly company in the sense that you can order it, and if you don't like it, wear it, send it back, and we give you money back. I know you're going to like it.
It's been exciting, and I think I know the first pair that I got, I'm pretty sure you sent me like 3 or 4 pairs of socks, and they are this is like probably 2 years later. They're my wife's favorite socks. We still have them. Like they go directly into her sock drawer because I can't get access to them. I haven't seen those since like the first day that I wore them. I went, oh, these are great. And then she took them, and it's been 2 years. I haven't seen them since.
I have to tell you, we have the best sock in golf. I kid you not, guys. Please try it. You know what? And I can't take any credit for it. I really can't. We worked with a sock manufacturer, and for the people, I just want to show people.
Yeah, of course.
Is that one of the things we said with socks is that why would you have a sock that angles your toes to the center of the shoe and squeezes them? So we worked for about a year designing this sock that is really consistent. It allows your toe still to sit naturally in the shoe without angling to the center. But I have to tell you, I just went to the sock manufacturer. I said, I want to build one of the best socks you can, antimicrobial. I want it to be comfortable, kind of, a lower cut. And I gave them all the specs in it, and it came back, and it was like everybody was saying, I love the socks, and I'd like to take credit for it, but it wasn't me. I got lucky, but it's a fantastic product. It really is.
No, it kind of completes the package, and said I have to order a few pairs in. Somehow I have to hide them, but she also does all the laundry, so I'll probably get one use out of them, and then
maybe you start doing the laundry.
I could do that. I hope she doesn't watch this. Alyssa, I'm sorry for watching. Thank you.
No, okay.
But yeah, no, it's been really exciting to have you on and to talk everything about SQAIRZ. We're really excited for how things are progressing for SQAIRZ. I think it's been really cool to see the new innovations and the new designs that you've brought out for 2026. It makes us really excited for what's going to come in the future as well. I know we have a handful of SQAIRZ users here, but we also have a bunch that haven't. So hopefully we've enticed them enough to take the plunge, we'll say.
Well, I hope they do. You know, if you watch every club commercial over the last 10 years, every driver commercial, you should be hitting the ball about 400 yards further. And we all know that that's not the case. So you got to look at where you're connected, and that's the ground. And I would tell everybody, invest in a good golf shoe that, you know, you pay $200 for a golf shoe versus $700 for a driver, or, you know, $300 for a golf bag, and invest in a good pair of golf shoes, SQAIRZ. And I think you'll all be very pleased. And I want to thank you for allowing me to talk and to share the SQAIRZ story. And you know, without people like you and this forum here, I wouldn't have the opportunity to share the story. So thank you for what you do.
Wonderful. You know, Bob, I'll be honest, I didn't think we were going to be able to keep this under an hour, and we're at an hour, which is fantastic. We also had our time change last week, so that means that it's 11 o'clock here, and I do have to work at 5 in the morning. So we are going to end the recording here. But again, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you donating your time with us and putting up some shoes for review. And I'm excited to get them in the hands of our reviewers and start the whole process.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for having me, Jamie.
Wonderful.